Hello and welcome back to another Honda video. So today we did a little bit of work already off camera, but I went ahead and put the whole side of the engine together here after the oil pump. It was pretty easy and made quick work of this stuff. Try to get out of the light here, but yeah, I threw on the gear for the crank, and then with the keyway in there too, and the crank sensor, as well as I painted this little section of the oil pump here because that's what you'll see from the front, so I taped that off, painted it, threw on the tensioning system, water pump went on, I already had the balance shaft on, balance shaft's in and everything, yeah, threw the tensioner on in the springs. So yeah, we're looking good over here. I think the next step is to put the cylinder head on the top, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure my mating surfaces are clean, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten down my ARP head studs with some Loctite. I'm going to get them a little bit tighter this time, and throw the head on, torque everything down, and then we'll be ready to work on maybe the side of the motor after this. So I got all my head studs all set here. I cleaned them all off, make sure they're nothing on the threads. Got my Loctite ready, and I got my impact driver. I'm just going to run these down, and then I'm just going to hand torque them with a ratchet, just like they say to do in the instructions. Yeah, if they say to do it in the instructions, I'm sure we'll be fine. I didn't have any problems last time with any coolant or oil exchange, so I'd say we're good to go. I was trying to clean off a little bit of the carbon off of this valve. It sucks that I just kind of cleaned the valves up and then we had this oil burning problem. But you can see here that's cylinder number 2 is the worst. Still some in 3, a little bit of this white and carbon buildup here. Cylinder number 1 wasn't too bad, and cylinder number 4 was the best, I think. But yeah, so cleaned it up a little bit, should be okay. I went through, blew out all of these holes in the block where the studs go, and that should be nice and clean now. I blew it out with an air gun. I cleaned off the surface, so I'm going to go ahead and Loctite those studs, send them in, and then we'll be ready to throw the head gasket on and ready to put the head on. As you can probably tell from that last clip, I did get the cylinder head on, and I threw on the washers and the nuts. I got them all the way snug down, and now I'm going to go through the torque sequence. I have it written over here on my board. So this is the order. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is obviously cylinder number 1 through 4. There's the little timing the cam gear on that side, so that's how you know it's the front of the motor. So yeah, this is our torque sequence, and we're going to do it in 3 steps, 30, and then 60, and then 90, which is very tight. I'll be cranking on the torque wrench, but that is the torque sequence, and that's what ARP recommends. I don't have any ARP thread lube. Some people might frown upon that, but I've heard of people just doing motor oil, so I just use a little bit of the EOS, the engine oil supplement, and I threw it on there, and I think we should be all set. I think we should be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and torque this thing down, and then yeah, maybe torque the rocker arm assembly down as well, and can look at timing the motor, or maybe mock the turbo up or something cool like that. So as you could probably see from that last clip, I did get the cylinder head all torqued down all the way to 90 foot-pounds. Definitely was a struggle. Those are tight, and the engine stands rolling around on me, but I was able to get them, rechecked them, so they should all be good. Everything felt really solid. But yeah, so I was able to actually just throw on the turbo manifold and actually throw on the turbo just because I wanted to see what it looks like and just check everything out. and hopefully you guys will enjoy. I'm pretty stoked. It looks really sweet. So there's my turbo. It's a 60 AR, I think it's a 63 exhaust. Just the size of the compressor wheel and the exhaust side. I'm not entirely an expert on turbos, but I know that this should be a good size turbo for our application. It should spool quick. It's not too large. It's pretty small, honestly, but I think it's going to be perfect because I'm not looking to make a ton of power, just enough to give this thing a little pep. We can always upgrade later on. But I did go ahead and clock the turbo, so you can see everything is free spinning right now. This spins, as well as the oil section spins freely from that. So this is the feed side right here, where I'm going to screw in my stainless line, and then on the bottom is the drain side, you can see down there. And that drain is going to come out of here and loop down and go right into our oil pump with a welded in bung that's going to go right here. So I want to go ahead and throw my pipes on there and see what kind of routing I have to do and mark where I want to drill in the oil pump. I may throw the bracket on to check the clearances. I'm just checking out how everything's going to fit here. And I think the way most people run these F22s is they run the intercooler piping up and out here and then over this way. And then I got to figure out if I want to route it down that hole. If so, I'm going to have to delete the washer fluid jug. I'd like to not have to do that. I'd like to keep it. We'll see. Maybe I could route it around out that hole there instead, around the power steering stuff in there, and instead run it just around here and then into the intercooler up front. But that's just stuff we're going to have to figure out when we get there. So for right now, I think I'm going to tighten up the turbo the way it sits and maybe take a look at the feed and drain. I got to set up my oil filter sandwich plate that I have right here. That'll bolt onto the back with this nut right here. And yeah, so we should be able to run our stainless line to feed the turbo. And yeah, so we're looking good here. Definitely making some good progress. Got to torque the rocker arm assembly and yeah, start throwing stuff together. I want to get the oil pan welded so that I can paint the oil pan and you know, get it ready to put on. And once it's all painted and mocked up with our thing, once it's all painted and mocked up with our bung all welded in, then we'll be all set and we can put the oil pan on. The gasket came today in the mail, so you know, we're looking good. We got all the parts. Got to do this main cover as well over here, so I might get to doing that right now. Actually, I think that's probably what I'm going to do now. So you can see in here, I went ahead and threw on the remain cover, and I reused my remain seal because it wasn't leaking, so I put a little bit of grease on the crank, and I also put a little bit of grease on the seal, and then I hit that whole thing with GMS just like I did with the oil pump in my previous video, and threw it on there. Just hand tightened it. 108 inch-pounds is the torque spec, but my torque wrench doesn't go that low, so hand tight is good. We got good squeeze out everywhere from the Honda Bond, so yeah, we're looking pretty good there. You know, turbo is mocked up. I like the way it's looking, so we got to route the oil feed into this hole right here, and then like I said, the drain comes out of the bottom, so you know, I'm just working on figuring out exactly where I want to run that from the sandwich plate on the back. But yeah, everything's looking really good. I think that might be where I call it quits for tonight. So everything that I've got here is just about everything we're going to need to do our oil feed and return for our turbo. So turbos need oil, and you've got to feed them with oil somehow, and you also have to have it drain back into the oil pan. So this right here is our stainless steel feed line. This is an oil sandwich plate, so this has rubber on it like an oil filter. And what you do is put it over where your oil filter goes, and you tighten this down. I'm going to Teflon tape all this stuff. And then this has a bunch of 1/8 inch pipe threads here. And then this guy right here, the stainless line, will thread in to those 1/8 inch pipe threads there with some Teflon on it. And this hose will get routed to this right here, which is our oil restrictor. So you can see this side is really small. Only a little bit of oil is going to get into the turbo, but that's exactly what we want. We don't want to blow out our seals. So it depends on what style turbo you have, what size hole you're going to want. But this is going to be good for my turbo, hopefully. And we have a gasket with that as well, and these guys too bolted down. So yeah, this guy is going to go onto the turbo on the top right here, and that'll bolt like that. And I'd like to get a 90-degree bend so I can send the feed line either this way or that way, so it's not sticking straight up. So I'll get a 90-degree 1/8" pipe thread elbow, and then this guy right here threads in to that, and that'll be our feed. And then I already explained the drain prior, I think, but these are our AN fittings. So I bought this mild steel bung to weld onto our oil pan, and this will thread right into there. I think these are AN 10 lines. So that'll thread right onto there, and we'll make this pipe connection with this flange and that square gasket that'll go on the bottom of the turbo, and that should bolt up to, this guy bolts in, this guy goes in here like this, so we'll be all set. So this should be everything we need. So I'm going to go ahead and try to mock some of this stuff up, and we got to figure out how long of a hose we're going to need here, and figure out exactly where we want it to go into the oil pan so we can draw our hole and weld this bung in. So the way these AN lines work is it's not too complicated, but you have your stainless line here, and this end has tape on it. That's how it comes. But you take the tape off, and then what you want to do is insert it into this end right here, the bigger open end that's kind of threaded, and you kind of just want to put it on this way and turn it as it goes on, and try to keep the stainless from fraying. So just try to keep it all inside, kind of spin it on until it bottoms out, and you'll see it come all the way in until it hits like the point in there where it stops. And then once it stops in there, then what you do is you stick this in, just like I stuck it into this one, and you start to turn it. So I have it in a vise here so I can turn it, and I'm just going to crank this. I'm going to go get a wrench, but I'm just going to crank this really tight, and what that does is it pushes out on the inside of the pipe with this up against the inside of this, and it makes a seal, and you don't need any type of clamps or anything like that. It clamps itself. So I'm going to do that on one edge, and then we're going to hang this off the turbo and see exactly where it wants to hang and what kind of bends I'm going to have to do to make it so that it doesn't kink. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this guy up, and then we'll throw it back on the turbo. So here we are. I got this thing all mounted onto the turbo, and like I said, the turbo still spins freely. So I have this oil drain positioned about straight up and down. That's kind of how you want it, because this is a gravity drain setup here, so only drains by gravity. So you want this hose to come down, and I had to put a little hole, or I put a little bit of marker here where I want to drill my hole, and I have my other 45 fitting that I want to try to put right on here like this. So with this 45 fitting on there like that, I should be able to have like just a short travel of hose right here. Just this small amount of hose will be really nice, because it'll be a very direct path right into the oil pan. It won't have any restrictions draining the turbo. Nothing will get backed up. So I'm excited about that. So I have the hole marked, not too high so that I can't spin this. I want to be able to spin so I can tighten it down. But I have my mild steel bung right here, and so I'm going to drill a hole about the size of the back flange in this thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this right on the front, and I'm going to clean off the pan after I drill my hole with a step drill bit and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and find out where I want to put this on the center of the pan, and see if I can drill a hole and get this thing tacked in so we can cut the hose and get it all set up. So I have our surface cleaned off on the outside and on the inside. I'm using this clamp just to hold it in place. I don't have a long welding extension cord, so I may have to bring it over to where my 220 welding outlet is. we'll see if I can get a good camera angle over there. I'm not sure if I have enough welding gas either, so if I do, I'll weld it. If I don't, maybe I'll just tack it in place just so we can mock everything up and make sure that it's going to be a good spot. It's kind of too late. I already, drilled the hole, so I'm sure it's going to work. I'll make it work, but yeah, I'm pretty stoked. This is pretty cool. So once I get that welded in, I can tape it off and paint the oil pan and everything, get that all ready to go on, throw on the oil pickup tube, which is over there in that bag, because I have all kinds of metal shavings over here and I didn't want that to get into the oil, obviously. So I'm going to clean out this pan really good before I put it back on the car, because it's all full of shavings right now. That's why you want to kind of do this. I know some people do it off the car, or I'm sorry, they do it on the car and then they put grease on their drill bit to try to catch all the shavings, but you're going to get some shavings in your oil pan and you definitely don't want that. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it off the car while we have the whole car apart. Better time for it. So just like that, we got it all tacked in. A couple of tacks on there. One good looking one on that side. It started to heat up, so I got a couple of decent ones on this side too. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go around, wire brushing as I go and just tacking it till we're welded all the way around. And then we should be good to go with this guy. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So this is what I came up with. Pay no attention to my bad looking welds, but basically welded it in. It was tough to get to the top. The shielding gas wasn't really getting there, so the welds don't look so good. But for the most part, I got a decent bead around it. There's not really any areas where there isn't weld. And I did also weld the inside, and then I ground it flat, and then I put Honda Bond in a big circle there. So in my opinion, I don't really think that there's any way that that can leak, because it's covered by Honda Bond, so there's no way that the oil pan contents can all leak out on us. So then, as long as that's solid and the weld on the outside is pretty solid, then I think we should be good to go. Yeah, so shouldn't have to worry about that at all. I'm going to paint the outside of the oil pan right now, prime it, and then shoot it with some gloss black so it looks good. But yeah, I think that's going to cap it off for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Yeah, my hair's a little messed up. I was wearing a hat, but don't mind that. Hopefully you enjoyed, and this thing is going together rather quickly. I'm getting pretty excited seeing all this stuff set up here. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed.